road trip of the 2014 regular season begins in San Diego, California. Unseasonably hot San Diego, California. It's game one of a four-game series. The Phils fans are coming out to root on their club tonight here at Petco Park. And news from the Phils, Jonathan Papelbon, I should say news from Major League Baseball. Jonathan Papelbon has been suspended for 7 games and fined an undisclosed amount of money by Major League Baseball for his actions in yesterday's game against the Miami Marlins. The suspension begins immediately. Here's the statement from the Phillies. The Phillies fully support the decision of the commissioner's office, which has exclusive jurisdiction for on-field player behavior. By MLB rules, the Phillies have no authority to make official judgments about activity which occurs on the field or to determine the appropriate penalty for misconduct. We apologize to our fans for the actions of our player yesterday. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Jamie Moyer. Obviously, this was a topic of conversation yesterday at Citizens Bank Park, last night, today in Philadelphia, today at Major League Baseball. And it was a quick turnaround for MLB to come up with this decision.
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, this situation arose, but Major League Baseball is handling it. And what ends up happening is Major League Baseball has jurisdiction not only on the field, but in the dugout and also in the clubhouse, which I think a lot of us were not aware of. And I actually had a conversation with Pat Gillick earlier, and we talked about it. And it's Major League Baseball is handling things the way they feel like they need to handle them. And for whatever they accuse Jonathan of potentially doing, he's going to have to pay for it, and we'll move forward from there.
Well, we'll move forward from there, and there's no announcement yet about Joe West. If there's anything coming down on him, we'll keep you up to date on that as that moves along. But we do have baseball, and whether Ken Giles is the closer or not, that remains to be seen. We'll hope and we'll find out some point tonight against these Padres, who the Phillies saw earlier this season, and they swept out the Padres earlier this season.
Yeah, they played very well against the Padres. The Padres are a team that's kind of struggled this year, a little bit like the Phillies, but I think a little more than the Phillies. But here, if you recall, in the game one, Marlon Byrd hit this big home run, and A.J. Burnett really threw a lot of zeros up there, pitched very well. His defense played very well behind him, and that's what allowed the Phillies to get game one, take that momentum into game two. In game two, again, went the Phillies' way. Reed Brignac came in as a pinch hitter, hit a big game-winning home run, and again, catapulted the Phillies for a second win in a row against the Padres. And again, it is where they started to create some momentum. Game three, Reed Brignac, again, pinch hitting, base hit in the gap, drives in Will Nieves and gave him the energy they needed at that point in time. And then here we go. Kenny Giles with his Major League debut in Philadelphia. And there's his father, a proud father, by the way, cheering his son on.
Well, he gave up a home run to the first batter, but that was it. Now the Phillies come out to San Diego. Now they're 49-20 against the Padres overall since beginning of 2004. How about here at Petco Park? Now, you were part of teams that had a pretty good winning streak here at Petco Park.
Yeah, I think we were very comfortable playing here. I know we all pitched pretty well, but we scored a lot of runs here. We played well, particularly well against the Padres. It was one of those matchups that we felt very comfortable coming to San Diego. And how can you not be comfortable coming to San Diego to play baseball?
All right, well, but it is hot here. It's not normal San Diego. It's very hot right now, and the ball should be jumping here tonight. So it is game one of a 4-game series. Andrew Kashner coming off a solid outing against the Dodgers. Jerome Williams making his 7th start of the season for the Phillies. When we return, we'll go to the Comcast Sportsnet studios before we get a chance to see lineups at first pitch. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. A reminder from Budweiser, great times are waiting. Designated driver. By Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. By Toyota, where will Toyota take you? Visit buyatoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank, introducing One Deposit Checking. Keeping things simple is helping you bank better. And by Independence Blue Cross, the most preferred health plan in the region. Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Finally, time the Phils come out to San Diego. It's the final road trip of the 2014 season. We always see a lot of Phillies fans getting a chance to come out here. Great place to be. Let's take a look at the Phillies starting lineup. It's brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. It'll be Revere, Ashe, and Utley, followed by Ryan Howard, Marlon Byrd, and Dominic Brown. At the bottom third of Will Nieves, Freddie Galvis, and Jerome Williams. And they will face right-hander Andrew Cashner. Cashner, according to Bud Black, has front of the rotation stuff, but he's been banged up with some injuries this year. He's got some wicked movement on his fastball, Jamie. 3-7 though with a low ERA.
Yeah, he used to be a really hard thrower. He's still pretty firm at 94. 4-pitch pitcher, fastball, curveball, slider, changeup, anywhere from 94 to his fastball, 80 to curveball, 84 to slider, 85 changeup, and 1-0 career against the Phillies with a 2.13 ERA, and starts the game off with a 92-mile-an-hour strike to Ben Revere.
Yeah, that was his two-seamer. Revere hitting 309. He hits that one out to left field, and Gobert's under it. So one away here in the first on 2 pitches. Before we move along any further, let's take a look at our Nissan keys to tonight's ball game.
Well, my keys tonight for the Phillies to get a lead by the 6th, because the Pods they're 9-68 when they trail after the 6th inning. And my second key is to get to Cashner and get his pitch count up. He's only had 1 game this year where he's thrown over 100 pitches.
Yeah, they're trying to manage him through the rest of the season, like a lot of pitchers, because he's had elbow problems this year and shoulder problems, which has put him on the disabled list a couple of times. 1 ball and 1, or no balls and 2 strikes to Cody Ashe, getting a chance to bat second here tonight. Ashe was 5 for 14 on the homestand, including his game-winning home run. Swing and a miss, and 3 pitches to Ashe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. First strikeout for Cashner.
And that's what you can do when you have the kind of velocity that he has and the curveball that he has, is you can throw that elevated fastball. And you see right there, Cody Ashe chased that fastball. So, and you know, a guy that, what, he's 6'7", 6'8", standing on top of that mound puts him at over 7 feet. You know, when you add his arm to it, he creates a lot of leverage when the ball's down, and then when he throws that high fastball, it looks like it rides, almost like it rises on you.
Well, there's a breaking ball inside to Utley. It's 1 ball and no strikes. Chase hitting 274 with 11 home runs, 76 runs batted in. Chase had 5 hits on the homestand. He was 5 for 23. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Wayne Merkel of Lansdale. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, then Wayne will win $300. Change up low. Utley 1 for 3 against Cashner. Fastball inside. That's the 4-seamer at 95 miles an hour. As Jamie said, he still throws in the mid-90s, but when he first came to the big leagues with the Cubs, his scouting report read 96 to 100 with his fastball. Always tough to maintain 100 miles an hour when you're a starting pitcher. We've seen Strasburg, who's hit 100 before. He's dipped down, but he's still overpowering.
I saw some numbers on Cashner today. They said 3 years ago he was averaging just over 97 miles an hour, and he's now dropped down to, I think it's 94.2 as an average.
Ground ball right side, and to his left is Jerko. Throws out Utley, and the Phillies go down in order here in the top of the first. So Jerome Williams getting a chance to get back on track with this start. He'll be out on the mound when we return for the bottom of the first. for tonight is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Solarte leads it off at third base, then the veteran Seth Smith. Jed Jerko's at second base, he'll bat third. Yasmani Grandal at first base. Rene Rivera does the catching, he'll bat fifth. Emerista at shortstop bats sixth. Then it's Gobert, Venable, and Cashner. They'll face Phillies right-hander Jerome Williams. All right, Jerome got off to a solid start for the Phillies, Jamie, but the last two starts, not so great for him.
Yeah, they've been a little subpar. I actually had a little conversation with him yesterday, and he actually mentioned that, I realize what it is, and I'm not as aggressive as I was in and out of the zone. And he said, tomorrow, I feel like I need to do something about it. But he's going to come at you with 4 pitches, as well as Cashner, fastball, curveball, cutter, changeup, 91-mile-an-hour fastball on average, 80 curveball, 89 cutter, and an 85-mile-an-hour changeup.
See his numbers against the Padres. He'll face Solarte to lead it off, and the first pitch is a strike. It's 0-1. Solarte, who was traded over to the Padres from the New York Yankees, had an excellent spring. That's where we first saw him this past spring. To the right side, a chopper to Utley. And Chase double pumped for a moment just to get his bearings. 1 out.
I think that double pump comes from footwork, trying to get his feet moving with his hands so he can get rid of that baseball, and he had time.
Yeah, Chase had trouble yesterday in the 9th inning with a pop-up where it looked like he was peeking at the base runner to see if he can double up the base runner. I asked Ron Sandberg, I said, do you think that it got caught somewhere? He goes, no, I just think he misread it more than anything else. He said it happens sometimes. Trying to do just a little bit too much. Seth Smith swings at the first pitch. Williams will get over to cover, and Howard will flip underhand. 3 pitches, 2 outs here in the bottom of the first.
Well, this is the way you want to get to a start in the game right here. 3 pitches,
so.
2 outs, 3 fastballs. Obviously, you want to establish all of your pitches, but this can play into your hands if you can continue this. Obviously, he's not going to go 4 or 5 pitch inning every inning, but can play into your hands, especially if you get deeper into the game, and it will allow you to be a little more sharp as you get deeper into the game.
Well, he's got 2 quick outs. Here's Jerko, who's hitting 5 straight. First pitch is over. It's 0-1. We showed you the umpires earlier. Brian Gorman is the veteran who's behind the plate. That one is lined right back through the middle. It's one of those where as a pitcher you just got to look out. 6-game hitting streak for Jerko, so he's aboard with 2 outs here in the first.
Yeah, it's one of those you kind of wish you had a screen.
It's one of those that if you did have a screen, you'd be flinching every which way.
Not a good feeling when you see that ball coming back to you that way.
I can only imagine.
A lot of it's self-defense. We saw Jonathan Papelbon a couple days ago for the last out of the game take a hard one-hopper. And you watch him, or actually earlier in the year, Kyle Kendrick took a line drive that he caught in Atlanta. And a lot of that's just self-defense.
Here we go. Watch his reaction from the side. He's like a shooting star right by him. Up high, 2 balls and no strikes to Grandal. 8 for 27 on the most recent road trip for the Padres. He scored 6 runs. Out front of a changeup, and it's 2-1. Padres just came off that road trip where, man, did they struggle. And they are a much different team at home compared to the road. In fact, on the road this year, they're 28-49. And at home, they're 40-31. They're one of 10 National League teams that's reached 40 wins, 10 of the 15 at home.
In the month of September, they're 4-9. That's tough right there, going into the end of the season playing at that unfortunate clip.
Yeah, 3rd place in the National League West. Everybody's looking up and watching the Giants and the Dodgers battle. And it seems to be a good battle again. On the inside corner, a called strike 3. First strikeout for Williams. Well, there's a little aggressiveness on the inside part of the plate. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 man left. The big piece will lead it off when we return. season for the Philadelphia Phils. Their last set of home games, 3-game series against the Atlanta Braves. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 26th, 27th, and 28th. A reminder that it's Goya Latino Family Night on Saturday the 27th, and then Sunday, Fan Appreciation Day. Tickets can be purchased for the last 3 games by going to Phillies.com. Braves are battling with the Washington Nationals right now. They are on life support in their hope to get to the postseason. The Nationals, meanwhile, well, their magic number to clinch the National League East has been whittled down to 4. They're not the closest team to see the end of the road in the division. The Orioles, thanks to their come-from-behind victory last night against the Yankees, their magic number is 3 to clinch the American League East. Ryan Howard leads it off here in the top of the 2nd. And it's no balls and 2 strikes, so both pitchers are coming out firing strikes right out of the gate.
Well, my belief, if you're a team hovering around 500, there's really not a good looking chance for you to get into any kind of playoff berth.
Particularly winning the division, at least this year. The way things are starting to unfold and teams are starting to separate. To the right side, into the shift, Jerko in shallow right field. Flips in time to get Howard, so 1 out here in the top of the 2nd. And that'll bring Marlon Berg to the plate. Marlon's 25 home runs, 6th in the National League. He also has 79 runs batted in. Change up, and it's 0-1.
I find it really interesting for a guy that throws as hard as he does to be throwing this many changeups.
To the left side this time, and Amarista's up with it, and Bird, hustling the whole time, is thrown out by a step. Yeah, there's 2 outs here in the 2nd. Well, Jamie, you know, as a pitcher, it must be a frightening feeling if you're Andrew Kashner when you have an elbow injury where initially they thought he'd have to have Tommy John surgery. You rehab that, and then you come back and get a shoulder injury the same year.
Yeah, it's really interesting because usually the information that I've been around with doctors is that the elbow problem usually stems from a weakness in the shoulder. So the work that you're doing is on your shoulder.
Well, he does not look weak so far. He's retired the first 6. He's got 4 ground ball outs, and that was just a 7-pitch 2nd inning. We'll go to the bottom of the 2nd here in San Diego, and Jerome Williams will go right back to work. Prospect Maikel Franco about the big leagues and his hopes for the future. Plus, we'll break down the biggest questions facing the Phillies this offseason on Phillies Clubhouse, presented by Mercedes-Benz on Comcast Sportsnet. Maikel was in the dugout today. His me and Murph talking to Michael and Murph. It was Michael and Darren Ruff. There was nobody else in the dugout, correct? It was just the four of us at the time, right?
That's right.
And we were discussing Darren Ruff's first home run, and Darren was joking around with Michael about not having his first big league home run yet. And what did Michael tell us, Murph?
He said, just wait. It's going to come. It's coming.
He said he's getting closer.
Yeah.
Be nice to see that. He's done a nice job over at third base and even at first base for the Phils. That ball is smoked down the left field line. It's a fair ball. Rene Rivera. He's been hot lately for the Padres, and he's going to start this inning off with a leadoff double. Last 34 ball games, Rivera has hit in 25 of those 34, counting this one. So he's aboard to begin the second.
Well, here, Will's looking for a fastball down and away, missed his location all the way across the plate. And Rene Rivera, first ball fastball hitter, deposits a double down the left field line. And Tom, I love that story because I love the banter amongst teammates. Been around it my whole life, and it's just a lot of good fun, good clean fun that guys have. And you're poking at each other, and there's some jealousy there, but there's some fun being had.
Particularly this time of year when you have all these players that have come up, whereas Franco's going to get a chance to play third, where Cody Ashley's played most of the year. He's getting a chance to play a little first base when Ryan Howard's not out there, where Ruff has played as well. There's a cue shot foul. Well, anybody that knows Darren Ruff, he's one of the nicest people in the world, but he's also, he can joke around with his teammates, and it was kind of neat to see both of them out very early, watching the Padres take BP and kind of soak in a little Petco.
Well, and just showing him he has the upper hand, but if Michael comes out and hits a few home runs and passes him, I'm sure Michael's going to rub it in then too.
To the right side, that'll get Rivera over to third. So runner at third, one man down, and Jake Gobert will come up for the Padres. Murph, tell us everything you know about Jake Gobert.
I am about to tell you everything I know about Jake Gobert. He's obviously not a name that Philadelphia Phillies fans would be familiar with, but I had a chance to listen to Bud Black today talk about his left fielder tonight. It's just his third start out in left field. He's played some first base for the Padres as well, but he's a guy that the organization targeted and traded for. He was in Oakland at the beginning of this season, a young guy, about 26 years old, and the team went out and were looking for guys that were versatile and guys that were kind of gamers, is the way Bud Black described it. And this is one of the guys they targeted. They made a trade, and they brought him into the organization. They sent him down to AAA at the time, but he got called up, and since he's been up in August, he's really contributed. And Bud Black says he's the kind of guy that gives you a professional at bat every single time he's up there. And you look at his numbers and you can see that he's done a nice job since he's been up, and he's also a versatile guy. Can play left field, can play right field, and plays a lot of first base as well. So they're doing the same thing that a lot of organizations are doing. They're kind of evaluating some of the young guys they have in their organization, and according to Bud Black, they like this guy.
Well, I watched him play yesterday's ball game at first base, and he got a few ground balls, and he was fairly effective there. Murph, while you were letting us know about that, Will Nieves walked over to the dugout. I don't know if he got hit with the backswing or not on that ground ball to second base.
Yeah, he looked like he was telling Scott Sheridan, our Phillies trainer, that he got hit in the hand, his throwing hand. So they just let him take a couple tosses. I guess he's okay at this point.
See, Murph, you're multitasking. You're
That's
not
right.
only telling us the Jake Gobert story, but you're able to see and what's happening with Will Nieves.
Well, once I told you everything I knew about Jake Gobert, I then glanced over at Will Nieves.
Yeah, well, I was surprised when they traded Kyle Blanks, honestly, because of the size and the potential. But they must have felt like that had run its course. Phillies play the infield in. There's a grounder foul past Jose Valentin.
And Tom, from an Oakland Athletics standpoint, and that's the team the Phils are going to face after they finish up here in San Diego, they looked at Gobert more as a National League player anyway. He's the kind of guy that can play a bunch of different positions, which you see more in the National League. So it made sense for them as well. All
right, Murph, we appreciate that. Ground ball foul again. And by the way, we've gotten to the bottom of this with Will Nieves. Watch this. Shakes his hand, and look, there's a bee that comes out of his hand. He was stung, we think, or bitten by something.
And I think he was actually pointing, it might have been in his mask.
Interesting.
And he went to take his mask off, and it got him.
Yeah, because we did look in the truck at the swing by Amarista. and the swing did not hit his hand like we had first thought. And that's a great catch by the truck to see that popping out. 1 ball 2 strikes to Nieves, or to Gobert.
Didn't they have a B problem here a couple years ago where they had to stop a game?
That might have been a Qualcomm.
Okay.
Line drive caught by Utley. So 2 outs. So 2 away, and here's Will Venable. You ever been stung by a bee out in the field, Jamie?
No, have not.
How about that?
Have not.
He's still looking at the hand. Well, fortunately, he doesn't seem like he's allergic to it. Venable, 222 with 6 home runs. Phillies will play the infield back. A changeup on the outside corner, 0-1. The only one up is Cody Ashe, which you would expect on the offside of Will Venable. Venable was the leadoff hitter for some of this year.
Good bits of years previous.
Yeah. He had such a good year last year. They put him on the cover of the Padres media guide this year. No balls, 2 strikes to Venable. Jamie, after a little bit of research, there was an issue at Qualcomm, but back in 2009 there was an issue here at Petco. Fortunately, the Padres back in 2009 when they played the Astros were able to get a beekeeper within an hour, and they took care of the bee problem. Very good recall on your part.
Yep. Well, I have been a part of a game where there were bees in 2012 in Colorado. They somehow came in and bombarded the first base camera well and covered the camera. So the cameraman had to leave.
Wow.
And that went on for several innings until, again, they brought in a beekeeper and he took care of the problem.
Change up, and that's a little low. 3-2. Now the pitcher is on deck. These beekeepers, they're underappreciated during a baseball season.
They sure are.
Until you have a problem.
Should probably put one on staff, don't you think?
There's a changeup outside. Ball 4. So the first walk issued by Williams. And it'll put runners on first and third with 2 men down for Andrew Cashner, the pitcher. Well, it's not a terrible walk if you're Jerome Williams because you have the pitcher coming up.
Andrew Cashner is hitting 143 with 2 RBIs, so it's not saying he's a slouch at the plate, but you got to respect him a little bit.
Yeah, 4 for 28 on the year. One of his 4 hits is a double. That's the only extra base hit for him. Throws him a cutter, and it's 0-1.
I hated walking the 8-hole hitter unless I had to, because I always loved to have the pitcher lead off if I could.
Well, he bunts. It bunts foul, and it's 0-2. I think early on, would you agree with this, that he was going after Venable, and then once he fell behind.
Yep. You know, and I think that's wise, especially if you don't have a big history against Venable, and I'm sure they've probably seen each other here when Jerome was with the Angels and in spring training as well.
Over to third. Ashe off his glove. That's going to produce a run. Cashner hits it hard. It's 1-0. Padres on top. And we'll see how they score that one. Well, they scored an error to the third baseman, Cody Ashe.
Looked like that ball had a little top spin to it. Was hit hard, Tom, as you said, but it was an 0-2 pitch, by the way. You know, and a pitcher or not, he's got a bat in his hand.
can do damage.
So an unearned run for Jerome Williams. Runners on first and second with 2 outs. And here's Solarte, who grounded out to second his first time up. Off the outside corner, 1 ball and no strikes. For Ashe, that's his 15th error of the year. He's tied with 2 other third basemen with 15 errors for the most in the National League, David Wright being one. Chris Johnson from the Braves only has 4 errors this year over at third base. Shortstop Freddie Galvis is under it in shallow left field, and that'll do it for the Padres here in the second. But they do get an unearned run. They leave a couple. We'll go to the third. It's 1-0. Padres on top. The fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Jamie, the question is, which current Padres starter made his major league debut against the Phillies in relief in 2005? This is somewhat of a trick question. Answer will be revealed a little later on. 1-0 Padres on top of the Phillies as we go to the third. Oh, in between innings in the dugout. It's a crowded dugout. There's Cody Ashe getting himself a drink, and then Jerome Williams sitting on the bench, and Ashe just pats him on the back, and Williams follows suit. So Cashner hitting the ball hard on a ball that Cody will tell you that he should have fielded. He produces the first run. So the Padres have the lead. It'll be the bottom third of the order. Nieves, Freddie Galvis, and Jerome Williams. Nieves hitting .259 with a home run and 7 runs batted in. He's still shaking that hand out. Two-seamer that's over for a strike. It's 0-1. No balls and 2 strikes to Will Nieves. Cashner was acquired by the Padres from the Chicago Cubs in a deal that sent Anthony Rizzo, who the Padres had just gotten from the Red Sox. They sent Anthony Rizzo to the Chicago Cubs. As it turns out, Padres like the arm that Cashner has and still has, and the potential of him being a top of the rotation starter. But it wouldn't be bad to have Anthony Rizzo in the middle of your lineup if you're the San Diego Padres. Rizzo currently with 30 home runs and a .278 batting average for Chicago. It's a foul ball, and it remains 1-2. In fact, Rizzo in 3 years has 68 home runs for the Cubs. Meanwhile, Cashner is 16-20 with the Padres during that time. Swing and a miss. And that's strikeout number 2 for Cashner. A high breaking ball. Now the Phillies have open applications for Phillies ball girls for the 2015 season. You need public relations skills, and if you've taken communications or broadcasting or public speaking classes in college, well, why don't you send in an application? You have to have softball experience as well. Flexible schedule. You must be willing to work early AM, nights, weekends, and holidays. Deadline is October 17th of this year. Go to Phillies.com/ballgirls for more information. Phillies ball girls have become a big part of the Phillies community relations department. Freddie Galvis takes low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Not only see them at the ballpark down the left and right field line, but also with our Red Goes Green team and at the many functions off site during the course of a year. Galvis sends one to right center field. On the run for it is Smith, and he makes the catch. Well, it's a big ballpark. During batting practice today, extra batting practice, the ball was jumping. Ryan Sandberg said that would change when the sun went down. Some of the players thought it would still be the same, but that one was tracked down by Seth Smith into the alley.
Well, it sure was warm this afternoon, Tom, with a lot of humidity, which is somewhat unusual for this part of the country. We do get some humidity out here, but not like we do in Philadelphia.
The humidity is at 69% at the start of the game. Certainly not warm enough to deter a fan from wearing the Fanatic glasses. As Williams takes strike 2, it's 0-2. The beach that was put in when this ballpark opened. Remember, there being beach chairs out there until this year. Williams is struck out, so 1-2-3. Go the Phils. 3 strikeouts for Cashner. 9 up, 9 down. Middle of the 3rd. Padres up 1-0. Is just $1. McDonald's, I'm loving it. By Thomas Jefferson University Hospitals. Call 1-800-JEFF now for an appointment. And by Delaware Valley Honda. Visit your local Delaware Valley Honda dealer or shophonda.com. Out here at Petco Park in Southern California, where the Phillies trail the Padres 1-0. Phillies fans who normally come to see their club play here at Petco.
Might be keeping her up a little bit.
Well, maybe
huh?
she might be from the east. It is pretty late right now back home. It's 11:15 back home. So
I'm feeling it as well, Tom.
Her clock may not be all set up just yet.
We got ourselves a little bit of a pitcher's duel here with first strike pitches. Cashner's he's 8 of 9, and Jerome Williams is 8 of 10.
Jerome's given up the 1 unearned run, but he has been right around the strike zone. And I think the first couple of innings, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, he's throwing all of his pitches. It's just not one dominant pitch.
Exactly. And actually, I'm really surprised at how many changeups he's thrown early in the count.
1 ball, no strikes to Seth Smith, who grounded out to Howard his first time up.
But he's been very effective with what he's been doing so far.
That second pitch just sailed a little bit. 92-mile-an-hour fastball.
And we have seen some recent success with guys with first pitch strikes. Kyle Kendrick the other day, Cole Hamels. Makes a big difference being ahead in the count versus behind in the count.
Phillies got 3 pretty good pitching performances this past weekend against the Miami Marlins. David Buchanan was good yesterday. Cole, of course. There's David. And Kendrick with his 9th win of the season.
The Marlin killer.
The Marlin killer. That's okay. Phillies faced them a lot. You had that title for a long time.
I did.
And a play over the Phillies dugout. Tonight's ball game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. Another one fouled down the left field line. Not a whole lot of room in foul territory for the cornermen compared to some other ballparks. Down the left field line, it's tighter than the right field line. And a called strike 3. Backdoor cutter. And strikeout number 2 for Jerome Williams. So he wins the battle against Seth Smith. Right on the outside part of the plate. Take a look at our Mazda leaders. And the Padres with the lowest batting average in the National League at .225. I feel like they've been top 5 on that list for the last handful of years.
You know, and some will say, well, it's the size of the ballpark, and you think that would help you. The bigger the ballpark, the bigger the gaps, the more room to hit the ball. I'm not sure exactly what it would be.
That ball was drilled into the seats over the left field line. Lady was hit pretty hard by that line drive, as you can imagine. And Jerko, as any hitter feels it, he just took a look down there. And the fact that she's drinking some cold water. There's Glenn Hoffman bringing a towel down. Well, hopefully she's okay. She's up and walking, which is a great sign. There was not much anybody could do. That ball was down there fast. A strike at the knees, and it's 1-2.
If you've never sat down close to the field, you don't realize how quickly that ball converges on you.
It's scary. Yep.
And you really do have to pay attention.
Foul tip hung on to by Jerko. 3 strikeouts now for Williams.
What we call a front door cutter. He threw it off of his body and got a swing and a miss right there, but kind of throws it at him, and it came back over the plate.
Well, 2 quick outs for Williams, and now Yasmani Grandal, who went down looking his first time up.
It just goes to show you the creativity that Will Nieves has, but ultimately the creativity that Jerome Williams has with his pitches, the ability to throw his pitches to both sides of the plate.
I mentioned that Will feels very comfortable catching Jerome, not only because of the few times here this year, but because he's caught him during winter ball seasons in Puerto Rico. So he says he has a pretty good idea of what he offers. One just misses outside. 2-1. out toward right center field. Marlon Byrd will track it down shy of the track. And it's a 1-2-3 third inning for Jerome Williams. His first of the night. We've completed our first 3. On to the 4th. Ben Revere in the top of the order when we return. Maintenance player specializing in all your cleaning needs. WB Mason also provides a full selection of 3M safety products that can't be struck out. Who but WB Mason? We go to the 4th inning. It'll be Ben Revere, Cody Ashe, and Chase Utley as we start the second time through the order for the Phil's offense. Cashner has been, well, he's been economical, Jamie. 29 pitches so far through the first 3 innings of this ball game. And he hasn't allowed a base runner. He struck out 3 batters.
Well, he's been economical because he's been ahead in the count, and he's been around the plate, and he's been changing speeds. And those combinations usually allow success.
Ben Revere hitting .308. Revere 5th in the National League in hitting, and the third baseman Solarte is in on the grass. First pitch to him is at the knees. It's 0-1. Ben had a nice weekend. 5 for 14. A couple of multi-hit games. Scored 3 runs. That one hit sharply to short. Emerista, though, to his left. Well, I mentioned Cashner's numbers. His ERA 2.40 coming in, and it's dropping with the 3 1/3 scoreless here tonight. Well, we did a little digging with our friends at Elias, and according to them, back in '91, Greg Harris made 20 starts, had 9 wins with a 2.23 ERA. So this is just guys who have made at least 16 starts in a season. As that one is floated out to right field. So, Jamie, I guess you can say that in some ways he's the tough luck starter for the Padres because he only has 3 wins in those 16 starts. Harris had 9 in his 20 starts.
Well, I mean, you look at the way the Padres have played. You look at their numbers, their hitting numbers. You know, when you're not scoring a lot of runs, you got to put up a lot of zeros. And in today's game, that's tough to do, especially with hitters' approaches. And they're in a pretty tough division.
Oh, they are.
And you got to pitch in Colorado. Good luck.
Utley takes low. Well, their problem seems to be on the road where they're 28 and 49, and when they face the Arizona Diamondbacks for some reason they have trouble against them. And it causes Bud Black to take his hat off like that often during the course of a game. Down and away, 2-0. Here's to Budweiser. Here's to baseball. That's a big old Budweiser sign. In fact, Pat Gillick wanted Greg Murphy to go up and sit in front of that Budweiser sign tonight and do a couple of his hits. Looks like, Murph, somebody beat you to that spot.
Well, I was wondering if it was Pat Gillick because
he was wearing a green
he had a green shirt on at dinner.
Murph, did you coax Pat to go up into that section instead of you?
Well, I didn't, but if that is Pat Gillick up there, I will go join him. That's for sure. I might even bring him a Budweiser.
It's a very lonely spot in front of a very big billboard.
Pat's shirt wasn't a long sleeve shirt.
No, and Pat wasn't wearing shorts either. And Pat still has his head of hair. So here's Ryan Howard with a runner at first. Howard grounded out his first time up, and he takes low. By the way, that walk by Chase Utley is our first walk of the game and our first base runner. Phillies are walking, and Independence Blue Cross wants to remind you to get active and get walking too. Independence Blue Cross, live fearless. 1 strike. Howard was 4 for 19 on the homestand. His 92 RBIs, 4th in the National League. Pretty good running fastball right there at 95, and it's 1-2. Swing and a miss. Change up. 4 strikeouts now for Cashner, who is not allowed to hit through the first 4 innings tonight. He's allowed 1 base runner, the walk to Chase Utley. Nothing impresses that guy out there in right field. Pennsylvania Lottery benefits older Pennsylvanians every day. By Budweiser, here's to Budweiser, here's to baseball. And by AT&T, mobilizing your world. Well, the great Tony Gwynn, his statue out in the park, which is in right center field. And Tony Gwynn Jr., of course, is with the Phils. And at some point, he's going to get a chance to probably pinch hit or play in this 4-game series. And I can't wait to see what the reaction is. It's not a huge crowd here tonight. I'm not sure if it'll be any bigger as the week moves on. But I can't wait to hear the reaction from the folks here in San Diego. There he is talking with Jimmy Rollins. Those 2 guys are 2 of the nicest people in the world right there, Gwynn and Rollins. But Tony Gwynn Jr., his mom and dad have passed on a number of things, but they certainly passed on the way they treat other people. And Tony Gwynn Sr. is such a big part of the the fabric of this community for so many years. It's pretty nice of the Phillies to add Tony Gwynn Jr. to the roster and give him a chance to come to San Diego for this series. That's a fair ball for Cody Ashe. And there's one out. Well, after he passed away here in San Diego, the flowers that were left at the foot of his statue, and then the great celebration toward the end of June here at Petco Park. I mean, look at all the people that came to this beautiful ballpark to honor Tony Gwynn. And obviously his family was still in mourning, as they probably are at this point. So the Aztecs jersey, he was the head coach of San Diego State, and of course the Padres jersey and his number 19 rightfully retired out here in San Diego. 1 ball and no strikes to Amarista. And 2-0. Amarista overall hitting .239 at the start of tonight's ball game. Crazy splits. .262 here at home, and much lower than that on the road. To the right side, and Utley to his left. Takes care of Amarista. 2 outs. Coming up after the game, a full recap and analysis on tonight's series opener between the Phils and the Padres on a special edition of Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies postgame live from right here at Petco Park. Jamie will be making his first appearance on Phillies postgame live. Congratulations, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know that.
Yep.
We didn't practice earlier, Tom.
We didn't practice. We're going to go with the flow is what we're going to do.
You're a good teacher, though.
Matt rolled with it.
Did he?
Yeah, when we were in Washington, he rolled with it. He said after it, he said, I feel like I said the same thing the entire time. No balls and 1 strike to Gobert.
He did tell me he enjoyed doing it, though.
Inside, 1-1. Well, obviously, with the Phillies game coinciding with the Eagles game, there's a lot of stuff going on back at Comcast Sportsnet. A lot of great coverage. 2 balls and 1 strike. Gobert lined out to Utley his first time up. Just didn't run back. The right side of the infield started running off the field. Marlon Byrd took a step in also. Take a look. Right where Will Nieves wanted it.
Strike earlier. Strike in the first inning.
Well, they'll go there again, and this time it's a call. Strike 3. 4 strikeouts for Williams. He's retired 7 consecutive hitters. I don't know if he would have been able to get the great Tony Gwynn, but I think if Tony was here, he would have been Be a quiz answer. All right, Jamie, here we go. Which current Padres starter made his major league debut against the Phillies with a relief appearance in 2005?
Well,
now I have to tell you that he wasn't with the Padres at the time.
I figured that out.
And I don't even know if he's stepped onto the diamond here this year for the Padres.
It was, and I actually thought it was a little bit of an odd sign last year when they signed him. So I'm going to go with Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson is correct with the Marlins on September 10th, 2005. Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. 1 ball and 1 strike to Marlon Byrd. The Phillies do not have a hit so far through the first 4.
Why the buzzer, Tom?
Well, they must have voted in the production cavity that he may have gotten some assistance somewhere. I don't know. You know, the camera we have up here, they watch a lot of things.
We'll just have to put a towel over it from now on.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Byrd. He grounded out to shortstop his first time up. Swing and a miss. 5 strikeouts now for Cashner. Is that a changeup, Jamie?
Yes, it was a changeup. It was right off the fastball he just threw out there. So Marlin really attacked that pitch like it was a fastball, and the bottom dropped out of it. So give Cashner credit for executing a very good changeup to a good low ball hitter.
Here's Dominic Brown. And Dominic tries to bunt his way on over to third base. It's a fair ball, and it's the first hit of the night for the Phillies. A bunt by Dominic Brown here in the 5th inning. Now the fans are booing, and Cashner,
he doesn't like it either.
I don't think he likes it at all, but yeah, it's the 5th inning. It's a 1-0 ball game. The Phillies do need to get some base runners here and get Cashner into the stretch position, and they did put the shift on him.
Tell you what, if he ran right out of the box, he probably could have gotten a double out of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Emerista let that ball go. Well, so a bunt single for Dominic Brown. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at this point in the game and down 1-0.
If they didn't want him to bunt, they should have played him in.
Well, here's Will Nieves, and he shoots it foul, and it's 0-1. Well, this long stretch of baseball history for the Padres in which they do not have a no-hitter will continue. I don't know if anybody whispered in Dominic's ear to do that, but I think for him it's good recognition. There he goes. Pitch is popped up. Dominic doesn't realize that he was deked, and he's going to be out anyway because he didn't go back and touch second base. He slides in safely. He went around second and never touched the bag, retouched the bag. If the Padres saw that, which I think they did, then they're going to appeal, and there it is, and he is out. So that'll do it for the Phillies here in the 5th inning. Cashner, I think, said something to Dominic Brown as he walked off. He's still saying stuff to him. I think that's just not understanding the game if you're Andrew Cashner. This is what Brown did. He touched the bag, never retouched it. So the double play is in order for the Padres. Brought to you by Citizens Bank. The Phillies Junior RBI League has been teaching kids how to play the game since 1989. To learn more or get involved, visit citizensbankpark.com/community. Good banking is simple, clear, and personal, and that's helping you bank better. Good banking is good citizenship. Well, we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. The Phillies have their first hit, so the Padres have 2 hits. The Phillies have 1. Now, the Padres have an unearned run, so they lead at 1-0. And Will Venable will lead it off. He walked his first time up. And a strike over for Venable, and it's 0-1. Two to Will. According to the official score, they're officially calling that double play the out 4-1-6 on Dominic Brown. Outside 1-2. I mentioned that Cashner said something to Brown as he was walking off a couple of different times. And Jamie, I should defer to you on that, but I just don't think there's anything at all wrong with it. Top of the 5th inning for a player to use his noodle and see that there's a shift and you're down by 1, to lay down a bunt up the third base line to try to get something going for your team.
I don't understand why it's not done more with the shift. I really don't, because they're really saying, here, I'll give you the bunt if you can get it down.
Yeah, he said something, and then he said something again. Swing and a miss. Strikeout for Williams. Strikeout number 5.
2 very well located breaking balls right there by Jerome Williams. The first one, Venable had he almost foul tipped it. That one he missed. I don't know if he would have hit with a tennis racket.
Shortstop backhanded by Galvis. And Cashner's thrown out. So 2 outs here in the 5th. Freddie getting a chance to play shortstop for the injured Jimmy Rollins, and it seemed to be a fairly optimistic update today, Murph, from Ryan Sandberg.
Yeah, Ryan Sandberg giving the latest on Jimmy Rollins, and that is that he was actually out there before the game today on the field doing some light baseball activities. He was taking some ground balls. Ryan Sandberg also said that he's been hitting in the cage inside, and he was going to get out on the field and start hitting very soon. So, you know, the projected date when he first got injured was probably when the Phils arrived in Oakland. But if Jimmy's feeling good tomorrow or after the activity, they might ramp it up a little bit. You might see him at the end of this series, which would, you know, bring the date up a couple of days, and that's good news to get Jimmy Rollins back out there on the field.
Well, the athletic training staff was working on him again today, and boy, they do such a great job here in Philadelphia. The trainers do. There's Scott Sheridan, he and Sean Ficasny. That ball is ripped foul past Jose Valentin. And even at the end of this year, you know, Jimmy has said that he was trying to get back before the end of the season to get into some games. Softly to the right side, Jerome Williams casually off the mound, and he'll retire the Padres in order for a 3rd consecutive inning. Well, he's fine-tuned some things, and it certainly shows. We'll go to the 6th. The Phillies down 1-0. To dominate and impress during his first test in the major leagues. Ken Giles hit the ground running in mid-June and keeps passing each obstacle along the way. The right-hander allowed a home run in his major league debut. That was the last one, and he only allowed an earned run in 4 of his first 37 appearances. The 23-year-old with an ERA in the low ones has found a comfort zone in the back of the bullpen. And it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Well, there's Ken Giles. I don't know if he needs the hoodie here tonight, but he's got it on. And if the Phillies have the lead late in the ballgame, it's our understanding that he's going to get the baseball. But we'll see. Prior to us coming upstairs here tonight, we had not heard the news. It had not been released that Jonathan Papelbon was suspended for the next 7 games for what happened yesterday in Philadelphia. You would think that Giles is the guy. As Freddie Galvis takes a strike, it's 0-1. Giles flat out to right his first time. Galvis flat out to right his first time up, and it's 1-1. I think, Murph, if you're Ryan Sandberg, you kind of have a couple of options that you can choose from, but I think it's leaning toward Ken Giles being the guy. Inside, 2-1.
You know, Tom, he was asked about that today, you know, and it was hypothetical at the time because it was before the suspension had come down for Major League Baseball, but asked what he would do if Papelbon wasn't available. And like Ryan Sandberg often says, is, you know, he was going to take it day by day, and he's going to, you know, they've been in that situation once or twice already this year when Papelbon was not able to go for whatever reason, and they kind of pieced it together. They went by lefty righties. They did, you know, certain situations, but I agree with you. I think if it's going to be for a longer period of time, like during the suspension, that they're going to give Ken Giles a chance. But, you know, Jake Diekman could also probably do the job, so they might want to take a look at him in that role as well.
Yeah, I think Ryan Sandberg kind of left it open because of matchups more than anything else. But we've seen that Giles, he's been able to get lefties and righties out. It hasn't been a blink of an eye for him. There's the 2.
Well, that situation also gives them a chance to look at guys in that role if that's what they're looking to do. They have options.
So gets a chance to look at other guys in, let's say, Diekman's role or in Giles' role as the setup man too.
Good point.
No balls of 2 strikes to Jerome Williams. Antonio Bastardo doing a little stretching out there. Cesar Jimenez the same. Down the right field line and out of play. Fights it off. Cashner was late to get off, but there's still plenty of time for both to get over. 3 unassisted on the putout, 2 outs here in the 6th inning. Well, the only hit he's allowed is the bunt single by Dominic Brown, but you can also say Jerome Williams has only allowed the 2 hits in this ball game, 1 in the first and then 1 in the second. And here's Ben Revere. Ben has 6 multi-hit games here in September, which shouldn't be a surprise because he has so many for the season, including 2 this past weekend against the Marlins. He's behind 0-2 late on that pitch from Cashner. There's Jimmy Rollins, who would normally be the guy behind Ben Revere. Good spot for Cody Ashe. It's been a revolving door since J-Ro went on the DL. Over towards shortstop. This will be a tough play. Amarista gets to it quickly. What a good pick by Grandal at first. That's an outstanding play, and it keeps Ben Revere off the base paths. Another 1-2-3 inning for Cashner. He's only faced 1 above the minimum. Dodge.com or your local dealer today. Buy W.B. Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. And buy Nissan. Get to your local Nissan store for the ride of your life and save big today. We're fortunate enough to fly into all these different cities around the United States. This one is one of the neatest ones to fly into because you seem so close to the buildings when you're coming in, just because of the way that the city is situated.
Okay. Well,
that's a pretty good line there, Jamie. There's a plane right. See the two lights?
Yeah,
there it is.
All right, right there.
Yeah. I mean, you are so close to the buildings.
Going right over downtown.
Yeah, and when it's clear like it was last night, it's a pretty neat scene because the lights, as you can see, are all these different colors. Seth Smith takes low. It's 1 ball and 1 strike as we start the bottom of the 6th. Phillies will head to Oakland after this and then cross country to Miami to wrap up this road schedule. Last year when the Phillies were in San Diego, they took 2 of 3. Well, it's now time for you to tweet your photo using hashtag PhillyFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown at an upcoming game broadcast. It's brought to you by AT&T. This is truly a test for the folks at home to get a photo ready and get it out. And this would be a perfect photo to send in. Change up low, 2-2 to Seth Smith. High fastball, and it remains 2-2. Williams has gotten Smith to ground out to first, and he got him looking on strikes.
Tom, any foul balls ever up here?
You know what? I think I remember one bouncing on the walkway in front of us. I don't remember one coming into the booth, though. This is where we are. It's a great vantage point to see downtown, to see how beautiful this park is. Well, there we go. Just as we say that, that one lands just short of the porch in front of us.
And that's the 11th pitch in this at bat.
Yeah, I do remember balls going on the walkway underneath. But and there may have been some that have gone to the press box. I don't remember if any have come up here to the booth. You're going to ask me that one time, and one time one is going to come up into one of these visiting booths.
I know, Tom, and I'm not paying attention. I'm usually writing the pitch down, so I know you're going to catch it just like you did in the outfield.
I'm going to push you this way and let it hit the batter behind us. This is the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center, the longtime broadcaster for the San Diego Padres and former big leaguer. He passed away last year. His 90th birthday would have been yesterday. What a great guy. His line used to be, you can hang a star on it. And there's his name with the star next to it. He was a war veteran in 2 different wars, World War II and the Korean War. He had interrupted his playing days with the Yankees, and they're wearing the patch on the sleeve in his honor and the number 19 on the chest of the jersey in honor of Tony Gwynn. Swing and a miss. That's a big battle that was won by Jerome Williams. 6 strikeouts tonight. That's 11 in a row retired by Jerome.
A nice 14 pitch at bat with 9 foul balls. As a pitcher, you hate that at bat.
Yeah, but he got a strikeout out of it. But he threw everything.
Well, he went from 70 to 84 pitches just like that.
Hit sharply over to third. Ashley with a fine play.
But then you get a nice one pitch quick out.
That's big time right there. I don't know if that was right or wrong for Jerko to do. But he saw a pitch that he wanted. He hit it hard.
Yeah, but he made a U-turn. So I'm going to say not a good offensive decision right there.
So with 2 outs, here's Yasmani Grandal, who is 0 for 2. That's a breaking ball in the dirt. On the outside corner, 3-1. Out toward left field, Dominic Brown will head back just a few steps. He's under it. And that is 13 in a row. Retired by Jerome Williams. 1, 2, 3 go the Padres. We'll go to the 7th, and somebody's found a friend. Time now for your local Honda dealers game summary for Petco Park, where the Phillies trail the Padres 1-0. Dominic Brown is the only hit. It was a bunt single up the third base line. Rene Rivera scored on a Cody Ashley error. So an unearned run. That's all Jerome Williams has given up. He has struck out 6. He's allowed only 2 hits. So we'll go to the 7th, and Andrew Kashner, the starter for the Padres, will continue along. His pitch count is in a pretty good spot. He's only thrown 59 pitches. Now, one thing we didn't put on that summary was the bee sting of Will Nieves, which happened earlier in the game. He seems to be okay.
We can talk about that postgame.
He's inflexing that hand as much as he was earlier. Well, maybe not. Maybe he is. He's still shaking it. Here's Cody Ashley, who's 0 for 2. He has struck out, and he's lined out to right center field. First pitch is low, 1-0.
both of these guys have been very effective with their off-speed pitches tonight. And when they miss with them, they're usually not in the zone.
Yeah, this is from Cashner's standpoint, I guess this is what they've always envisioned. I mean, this is, you know, he's just not throwing, he's pitching. I mean, Williams has been fantastic for the Phils. Out to shallow left center field, and Seth Smith, or I should say Jake Gobert, will make the catch, and one away. And that'll bring Chase Utley to the plate. Seven groundouts, 7 flyouts, and 5 strikeouts for Cashner.
Tom, I meant to mention, I did see that girl come back that got hit earlier.
Oh, did you?
In the game. Yes.
Oh, well, that's a good thing.
Actually, I think she got an applause when she came back to her seat.
I have to admit, I flinched a little bit looking down as that one was going into the crowd, because there she is right there. To the right side, and Jerko, a diving play from his knees, throws out Utley. It's a fantastic play by the Padres second baseman. And there are 2 outs. And it's time for our Geico quote of the day. Speaking of Jerko, defense is just as important, if not more so than offense, especially if you're going to play up the middle. You've got to be able to make the plays. I was struggling early. He has 10 errors. I had a few errors that shouldn't have happened. That's unacceptable, but I think I've done better in the second half of the season, and he has, particularly since coming back off the disabled list. Ryan Howard takes outside. It's 1-0.
He got a good jump on this. Knew he had time just because he was on the short side of the infield, and makes a great play and throw from his knees.
6 errors before the All-Star break, 4 since. They also say he's getting to more baseballs in the second half.
That could also come from positioning. Getting into the league, knowing your pitchers, knowing when, especially when a breaking ball's coming, maybe play a little bit more on the pull side versus a left-handed hitter, where when you're throwing a fastball, maybe you shade up the middle.
Well, Bud Black has been exasperated lately because his team has committed 14 errors in the last 10 games.
Ooh.
Tonight they've played a clean game. The 1 error was charged to the Phillies, and that's led to an unearned run. Here in the top of the 7th, it's 1-0 San Diego.
Well, and sometimes along with errors come mental errors, and those aren't recorded, but they also can become a big part of the game as well.
Well, it's an excellent point. In fact, yesterday for the Padres in their game against Arizona, they had a 2-0 lead, but they had a situation where they lost the lead on a play where Grandal threw to second, ran up 5 feet in front of the plate. He was catching yesterday, and then didn't get back to cover, and the go-ahead run scored, and they eventually lost the game. 2-2 pitch to Howard. Fouls it back. 87 on the changeup.
That's all they're doing with Ryan Howard tonight. Changeup, fastball, changeup, first at bat, fastball, changeup, second at bat, strikeout. Here, changeup, fastball, changeup.
And he keeps fouling him off. It was a breaking ball. Swing and a miss. Rivera was gesturing Said snap it off hard. That's what he was using his hand signals for, and that's exactly what Cashner did. Phillies go down 1-2-3 here in the 7th, and it's time to stretch. The game.
Well, Andrew Cashner tonight has gotten plenty of ground balls. Here's one against Marlon Byrd. Another one, Jerko. And then here's another great play by Jerko on Chase Utley. 8 ground ball outs tonight by Andrew Cashner. And they are our defensive plays of the game by Hyundai.
Well, and this guy is pitched exceptionally well too. He's only allowed 2 hits. Jerome Williams, he's retired 13 in a row,
and he has 8 ground ball outs as well.
Oh, and you see that pitch right there that he just started Rene Rivera with. He is throwing all of his pitches for strikes tonight. Rivera has one of the 2 hits for the Padres. It was a double in the 2nd, and he eventually came around to score after the error, or on the error, by Cody Ashe. There's that distribution of outs that Murph was talking about, or that Jamie was talking about. Down the right field line, foul. Outside, 1-2. Little dribbler in front of the plate and the A base. Rivera was moving up that line pretty good for a catcher. 2-3 on the putout. Murph, that's 14 in a row for Jerome Williams, and that is the perfect time for us to go to the Major League Notebook.
Well, I would agree with you, Tom, and it's brought to you by Gwinnett Mercer University. And speaking of getting guys out in a row, it's been an impressive rookie season for Jacob deGrom, the starter for the New York Mets. Well, how about what he did today, pitching against the Miami Marlins? He struck out the first 8 Miami Marlin batters that he faced. It wasn't until their pitcher, Jared Cosart, came up and got a base hit that streak was broken. But 8 strikeouts to start a game ties a Major League record that was held by Jim Deshaies since 1986. So his impressive rookie year continues. Now he shares a little bit of baseball history as well. And we'll get you caught up with the Nats and the Braves as well tonight. In that game, Bryce Harper had to leave the game, as that one is ground ball to Chase Utley. Had to leave that game because he was lightheaded added. He was replaced by Nate Schierholtz, but the good news for the Nationals, they win that game. Their magic number now is 2, and because they're playing the Braves, it's 2 over the Braves. They can clinch that tomorrow with a win over the Braves. So the Nationals closing in on another National League East division title, guys.
You know, and Murph, they're closing in on that, and the Braves are closing in on some incredibly bad offensive numbers since the first of September. They're not scoring runs. They're not even getting a lot of hits during games. It's remarkable to see. Fly ball out toward Murph's area. Dominic Brown will take care of that. It's an 8-pitch inning. 1, 2, 3 go the Padres. We've played 7. Time to get a little offense going with Marlon Byrd. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Toyota. Where will Toyota take you? Visit buyatoyota.com to find out. Toyota, let's go places. Buy Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. And buy Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Jerome Williams, 7 innings of 2-hit baseball. He's allowed 1 unearned run. As we go to the top of the 8th inning, he's hoping his offense will be able to manage something against Andrew Kashner. As I mentioned earlier in the game, we have the AT&T fan photo of the game. This one comes from Stryker Lav. A Father's Day gathering at Citizens Bank Park with those great hats that were given out. Tweet your photo to hashtag #PhillyFanPhoto for a chance to have it shown in an upcoming game broadcast. Brought to you by AT&T. All right, Jamie, now we get to the top of the 8th inning, and the Phillies have just 1 hit, a bunt single. And they've got Byrd, Brown, and Nieves coming up. See if they can get anything going against what has been a very dominant pitching performance on both ends tonight. He is the only hit, a bunt single. Back toward the middle, a base hit to center field for Marlon Byrd. Yeah, there's the 2nd hit of the night for the Phillies. Non-stop action, heart-pounding excitement, historic performances. Don't miss the 2014 postseason beginning September 30th in Major League Baseball. Well, some of the fans are booing here at Petco as Dominic Brown comes to the plate. Disappointing. I think in every sense he did the right thing. His last time up to try to bunt his way on in the 5th inning of a 1-0 game.
There's not a thing wrong with that.
Out toward right center field. On the run is Smith into the alley. He's under it, makes the catch. Byrd tagging, heading to second. The throw by Smith on 1 hop. He is out at second base. Second double play of the night. Sometimes in these situations, when you don't have a lot going on, you take a chance. I'm not sure if this was the best chance, though, by Marlon Byrd.
Yeah, probably no. it's easy to second guess now, but the whole play is in front of you. And you can see right there, Andrew Cashner is very excited on that with that help.
Well, it took an excellent throw by Smith. I mean, it was right on the money. Marlon Byrd plays this game as hard as anybody, and he was trying to sneak a spot into scoring position. The Phillies have had no runners in scoring position tonight.
You see where Seth Smith gets himself in the right position and still has a pretty strong arm and makes a very good throw.
Here's Darren Ruff to pinch hit, and Ruff hits the first pitch to shortstop. So Amarista's up with it. A 5-pitch, 8th inning for Andrew Cashner, helped out by Seth Smith's arm out in right field. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. Middle of the 8th, the Padres with a 1-run lead. For the Subway winning box score, and Jamie, there has been a whole lot of offense to talk about. Each team with 2 hits here tonight, but we'll talk about the Padres because they have the only run. It was an unearned run that scored in the second. Rene Rivera began the inning with a double and then came around to score. He's 1 for 3. The run scored on the error by Cody Ashe. But other than that, the only other hit was Jed Jerko. And Cashner, who will get a chance to bat in this inning, has the batting gloves on. And he's going to get a chance to try to throw a complete game shutout here tonight. Carlos Ruiz comes into play catcher after Darren Ruff pinch hit for Will Nieves. Cesar Jimenez warming up in the bullpen.
Well, both pitchers have a chance to throw a complete game shutout.
Well, that is true. I think they'll give probably Williams, if he allows a base runner, you think they'll go get somebody? Well, Cashner's on deck, so they'll probably let him get through that. He's only at 101 pitches after that one's inside. Two balls, 2 strikes to Will Venable, who walked and struck out tonight. Check swing. Did he go? No, says Jim Wolf. inside, ball 4. So it's the first base runner for the Padres since the 2nd inning. And Castner's coming up. Derek Gunn and Reuben Frank have been covering the Eagles beat for over 16 years. In fact, collectively, if you combine their years together, it's over 40 years. Now they'll serve up their extensive football knowledge live 5 nights a week on the new Total Football Show, Quick Slants, weeknights at 6, only on Comcast Sportsnet. A lot to talk about tonight's Eagles game. They win it as the game winds down on a field goal. Darren Sproles had a tremendous night as a receiver against the Indianapolis Colts. Cashner 0 for 2, an error and a ground out. Venable is a threat to run. Not as much this year as last year. He goes, and the pitch is popped over towards second. Utley's there, makes the catch, fires to first, and Howard hangs on to the bag. That was interesting.
It sure was.
A double play, 4-3 to retire Venable. Great job by Howard to stretch and keep his foot on the bag.
Great play by Chase, retrieving back to catch that ball, number 1. And then you know that he's going to have the wherewithal to know where the base runner is and make a good throw, and a great stretch there by Ryan Howard. Now again, here, I don't have a problem with that Butcher boy, but when you see a guy go back and take a full swing, I have a problem with that. That's a ball that you're supposed to just kind of chop at and hit into the ground, because the infielders are moving. They've created a lot of holes. You're just trying to push the ball through the infield. With taking that big swing, that's exactly what happens. You pop the ball up and you hit into a double play.
Because you are, if you're a pitcher doing that, there's the tendency to be late. So by doing the Butcher boy, you shorten your swing up a little.
Exactly.
Correct?
You just bring it back to your ear. Jimmy Williams used to teach this so well. Bring it back to your ear and just chop. Beat the ball into the ground and try to hit the ball up the middle.
The outside corner to the leadoff batter, Solarte. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Back toward the middle, a base hit for Solarte. 3rd hit of the night for the Padres. And that'll bring Seth Smith to the plate. And this might bring Ryan Sandberg out to bring the lefty Jimenez in. He's coming up the stairs. So that's going to be it for Jerome Williams. See if Jerome tries to, no, I was going to say try to talk himself into staying into this game. But Sandberg already signals to Jim Wolf, the third base umpire, who says they want the lefty. Well, a tremendous night for Jerome Williams. 7 2/3. He allowed 3 hits and an unearned run. Phillies fans that are here in San Diego are going to give him a nice round of applause, and rightfully so. This has been an outstanding pitcher's duel. The most popular way to follow the September pennant races is with MLB.com At Bat, the #1 app for live baseball. Enjoy live look-ins, replay reviews, scores, live radio broadcasts, the MLB.TV game of the day, and much more. Get At Bat for your smartphone or tablet on the App Store or visit MLB.com. Well, we're here in the bottom of the 8th inning. There are 2 outs and a runner at first. And Ryan Sandberg goes to get Cesar Jimenez, a lefty, to face the lefty Seth Smith. So Jerome Williams goes 7 2/3, allows 3 hits. The runner at first is his responsibility. He's only allowed an unearned run so far. So Solarte has not stolen a base successfully for the Padres. As you take a look at Cesar's numbers. Breaking ball, and that missed a little low and outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Phillies had a right-hander warming up with Cesar, and that was Luis Garcia, and he's still throwing out in the bullpen. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire the opposition 1-2-3, which Jerome Williams at one point retired 16 in a row and had 5 straight scoreless innings, 1-2-3 innings. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Two and one. Down and away, 3-1. First couple of pitches were really close. Brian Gorman's had a fair but liberal strike zone tonight. Jerko's on deck.
It's been very consistent as well.
And that's low, ball 4. There's some really close pitches during that at bat. That'll put runners on first and second, and now you've got Jerko, and we'll see what they do if they decide to go get Garcia, or they'll allow Jimenez to try to finish off this 8th inning. They're going to make a double switch. It looks to be what they're going to try to do. Grady Sizemore is going to come in for Dominic Brown. So Sizemore will bat 9th. Garcia will bat in Brown's spot. So a pitching change here at Petco Park. The Phillies down 1-0, trying to keep it that way. fantasy camp from the 21st of January through the 25th, 2015 in Clearwater, Florida. The package includes hotel accommodations, an opportunity to practice with guys like Greg Wyszynski, Mickey Morandini, Larry Anderson, Bob Boone, a fantasy game versus the legends at Bright House Field. Tickets or information can be received by calling 610-520-3400. All right, to get your lineup squared up, Grady Sizemore will bat ninth. He's in left field. And Luis Garcia, who's into the ball game, his ninth game in the big leagues after a rather dominant season down in the minor leagues. He will bat sixth where Dominic Brown was. And he's on to face Jed Jerko with runners at first and second. And 2 outs. Jerome Williams went 7 2/3 tonight. Lifted with 2 outs here in the 8th inning after issuing or allowing a single with 2 men down. Now here's Jerko. He has one of the 3 hits this evening for the Padres. Smith is at first, Solarte at second. Lead for Solarte, but they're just trying to make sure he stays at second. Base running signals are sent in by Ryan Sandberg. Outside with a slider. It's 1-0. Decent sized test here for Garcia, who's been up and down as far as his success level goes with the Phils. Two and 0.
I would agree with you, Tom, and I think a lot of it, in his case, is just having the confidence. The stuff is there. It's just a matter of trusting your stuff. And as we saw all night by both Cashner and Williams, getting ahead is the most important thing early in the count.
.97 on the fastball. That's the stuff with a little movement that Jamie's talking about. 2 balls, 1 strike. Tried the same spot, missed it. 98. It's 3-1. Now you kind of have a have-to pitch because you just don't want to load the bases up. You've got Grandal on deck. And this is your inning because there's nobody else warming up at this point. Swinging a slider, and that's what Garcia has. He has that slider to complement a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. So you got to decide pretty quick.
You do have to decide quick, but usually when you're ahead in the count, it forces a guy to have to swing a little bit. Be a little more aggressive, or be a little more protective. When you're behind in the count, with some particular hitters, or with some hitters, they can be a little passive. They have the ability to take pitches and make you throw the ball over the plate.
Runners will be off on this one with 2 outs. Here comes the 3-2 pitch from Garcia. And low, ball 4. And now the bases are loaded. Grandal is coming up.
know, in this type of an inning here, especially with the pace of this game tonight, it's going so quickly. This type of an inning can allow your defense to kind of fall back on their heels. So it's key, really, trying to get ahead. And, you know, granted, I know Garcia's not out there saying, all right, now let me nibble and pick here. He's trying to throw strikes, but got to get the ball over the plate.
Well, that was a slow chopper toward first under the glove of Garcia, picked up by Howard, and Garcia with a little footwork finds that first base bag. That'll do it for the Padres. They leave them loaded. Well, here we go. Galvis, Sizemore, and Revere when we return. Last chance. Time now for our W.B. Mason delivery of the game. Normally we'll give you an offensive shot here, but we're going to give you a little defensive shot here, Jamie.
Yeah, here Dominic Brown hits a breaking ball deep into the outfield. Seth Smith gets over, makes a nice catch. Marlon Byrd tries to move to advance to second base, trying to get something going with the offense, and gets thrown out for a double play. And that is our W.B. Mason play of the game.
Well, and it's
defensive play of the game.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why, Jamie, that we're going to see Andrew Kashner as we go to this ninth inning. Because that double play, one of two that the Padres have turned here tonight. Seth Smith, though, will take that arm and move over to left field. As you saw, Venable, Maben in center. And Smith in left. Freddie Galvis will start it off. Kashner up 1-0. And Galvis starts to run up a little bit, takes the ball 1-0. Savarte came charging into third. 2-0. Jerome Williams, 7 2/3 tonight, 1 unearned run. That's it. And Freddie, taking all the way, takes a strike. Only 80 pitches tonight for Andrew Kashner. And Galvis bunts foul. It's 2-2.
Well, that's telling you, you know what, I'm going to come after you. I'm going to get ahead in the count, and I'm going to put you away. And he's pretty much done that. I mean,
he's not going to get much better than this right here. I mean, look at those pitches per inning. It remains 2-2.
Get 3 at bats, first pitch outs. Get several 2 pitch outs.
And on the flip side, Jerome Williams, what did you tell me? 5?
5 first pitch outs. And that's where you know, and remember, he also had a 14 pitch at bat against Seth Smith.
Galvis swings at ball 4. Strikeout number 7 for Kashner. 96. That fastball went out here in the 9th inning. And now Sizemore will bat.
And if you think back to a lot of these strikeouts, he got a lot of these strikeouts with strike 3 out of the zone. Chase pitches, whether they're breaking balls down, fastballs elevated.
Both these guys have been good tonight. Cashner now with back-to-back solid outings for the Padres, which they have to be happy about. He had gone 12 starts without a victory before his victory in his last outing against the Dodgers. Asked after that game, have you thought about it? He said, yeah, this is a monkey off my back. Most guys would say, no, I didn't really think about it. Consecutive home starts, allowing 2 runs or fewer, which is a franchise record. That's tonight, at least at this point. And a line drive one, Hopper snagged by Amarista. His throw to first snagged by Grandal. Two magnificent defensive plays on one play.
Ball almost knocked him over.
Which guy?
That ball was hit real hard. I was really surprised at how he turned. I thought he would continue to spin the opposite way.
I would have thought the same thing.
There's momentum taking that way, but when you're taught how to do things a certain way, and what a great pick right there.
How about that ball bounced away from Grandal toward home plate? Last opportunity. Ben Revere's 0 for 3. No balls and 2 strikes. Well, he's firing fastballs now. I mean, he's starting to feel it a little bit. He's only thrown 89 pitches in tonight's ball game.
Ben's seen 9 pitches in 4 at-bats so far. 8 of them have been fastballs. Every pitch he's seen tonight has been a strike.
His other 2 complete games have been shutouts. Cashner in his career. No balls, 2 strikes. Ooh. I don't know how that didn't hit him. Honestly, I don't know how that didn't hit him. I'm not sure how that didn't hit the front of the jersey. Well, that's
pitching right there.
Yeah, he's finally taking a ball, Jimmy. Finally seen something other than a strike here. And this at bat, his last one. Phillies have not had a base runner get to second. Dominic Brown got to second, took a step around it, but then didn't retouch second, so he was doubled up earlier. Two balls, 2 strikes to Revere. Toward left field. Smith on the run, reaches out, makes the catch, going away. And the 3rd shutout of Andrew Cashner's career comes tonight in a 1-0 victory over the Phillies. He allowed only 2 hits. Jerome Williams didn't allow much more. But he's the hard luck loser as the Padres take game 1 of this 4-game series. Well, if you like pitching, these 2 guys, Cashner and Jerome Williams, gave you everything tonight. Cashner did not allow his first hit of the game until Dominic Brown's bunt single in the 5th. And he is our Chevrolet player of the game, Jamie.
Yes, he is, and very deserving of that acknowledgement. Here you see high fastball. There's a high breaking ball. All night tonight, he used the whole strike zone and got a lot of pitches, a lot of swings on pitches out of the zone, and his defense played very well behind him. You see some easy plays. You see here's a difficult play right here. Yep, this is what it takes to put 9 zeros up. This is a full effort right here, and here's the final out. Ben Revere hits a fly ball down the left field line. Seth Smith catches the ball over his right shoulder for the final out of the game, and a complete game shutout by Andrew Cashner.
So he's our Chevrolet player of the game. The Padres take game one of this 4-game series. We'll be back to wrap it up from San Diego right after this.